My father had the zechus of touching many souls, and we have the privilege today to have one of the most premier askanim with us, with a lifetime filled with chesed and support of Torah. I would like to call upon Mr. Kurt Rothschild.
It is very bitter for me to bid you farewell. You were very dear to me, Brother Mordechai. I rarely, if ever, met a person so competent as a rabbi, as a school principal, as an organizer of community, as Mort Green. He founded the Orthodox School in Hamilton. He founded the Orthodox School in Hamilton. He built a whole complex of Yiddishkeit in Hamilton. And I met him first at a convention of Torah Masora, which was held in Hamilton by Dr. Joe Kamenetsky. Mordechai was not just a good friend, he was a good person. He often talked about his father-in-law as the father of dear Sylvia, and told me he was a role model to him in Havotzas Torah and Kilov Chokim. When he wanted to leave Hamilton and go and settle in Israel, he went to see the Levaya Rebbe, the day of Shneas, and he told him of his plans. And the Levaya Rebbe said to him, "Your place is here in Hamilton, where you are a great man in Havotzas Torah, where you're responsible for the funkheit of the community. You can't leave it." And that was the deciding way. He stayed on. He was a superb person in settling disputes in families and among partners. And when he collected $1 million, when he was compensated $1 million for settling a feud between two brothers, he used the money toward building the community center in Hamilton. And that was his life. He surely is a great model to all of us. And I feel very, very sad today. We should thank daughter Rochel and Esther, who together with her husband looked so royally and loyally after their father in the last bitter months of his life. And we should thank all the brothers for the way they respected and stood by their father. And he is the God Baruch.
Thank you, Mr. Rauch, for those profound words. I would like to call upon the grandson, Avi.
Just going to apologize in advance if I won't be able to be coherent. It's very difficult for me. Sorry. Unearned blessings. Zadie said it again and again. Everything in life is unearned blessings. This is coming from a man who seemingly earned everything he ever got in life. One of the most proactive people I've ever met. From a young age, he poured his heart and soul into everything he did. And successfully. He really could have done anything he set his mind to. As we've seen with anything he chose to do, from building a mikvah to simply moving large closets by himself when he was 70. What he chose was a life of giving. Zadie had two main circles in his life. His family and his community, Hamilton. The place he decided to breathe life into and care for his entire adult life, where he would be involved in everything, large or small, transcendent or down to earth, communal or personal. If anything needed to be done, he would be called in. If there was ever any question, he was consulted. A voice of reason and unending insight, he personally loved everyone in the community as a normal man would love his family. However, he was no normal man. Words cannot express how much love Zadie had for his family. Certainly not mine. Beginning with his wife, Safti, who he felt he could never praise or thank enough, could never believe that he managed to marry her. For his children, who he adored, down to his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, who he managed to learn everything about, even when he wasn't on the same continent. Every week, when I would call him to wish him a good Shabbos, he would say, "I'm looking at your picture here in the living room, and I can't wait to see you." He would then continue to give a personalized bracha of what he felt you needed most, or more often, what he thought you could become. He was the ultimate patriarch of the extended family. He was the guiding hand, the shoulder to cry on. He encouraged your successes, and he helped you get up after your failures, which thanks to him tended to be few and far between. He could take you on a tour of the universe, either the physical or the spiritual alike. Right after that, you could immediately come down to earth and solve any kind of problem you had. His knowledge and skill in Torah was something that could only be marveled at. His ability to divine people's intentions, feelings, and emotions was legendary. This ability gave birth to his phrase, "I know that's what the Rav said, but let me tell you what he meant." He never asked for help if he could do something alone. It wasn't in his nature. But if he was helped, he would have unparalleled gratitude, because everything he received was an unearned blessing. All we have in life are unearned blessings. Zadie was one of the biggest ones we had. some of the blessings you have can be taken away. And you can only count your blessings and be grateful for the one fact that you ever had them to begin with.
Amen.
Thank you, Avi, for those thoughtful and sensitive words. I would like to call upon Rafi the grandson.
Many of you know Rabbi Green, the public figure, the rabbi, the leader. But most of all, Zaidi was a family man. Nothing was more important to him than his family. He never missed an occasion to praise Safti, his wife, and express his everlasting love for her. No matter who the center of attention was, whether it be a bar mitzvah boy, chatan or kala, birthday boy or girl, or even just a regular Shabbat table, Zaidi was always made sure that we all appreciated the real reason we were all able to gather together. Zaidi and Safti had a marriage all of us envy, and a relationship we all aspire to. The greatest lesson he taught us all, the epitome of a happy, healthy marriage, was taught by example throughout over 60 amazing years. Zaidi instilled in all his children and grandchildren the importance of family and ensured we all understood that family is and always must be our top priority. In this, he made each and every one of the family members, whether they be his children, their spouses, grandchildren and their spouses, and even the great-grandchildren, feel that they are an integral part of the family with all the love and mutual responsibility that comes with. Zaidi gave each and every one of us the feeling that we were his entire world. Growing up with a world-class mentor, coach, confidant, and posek is a privilege one does not come by every day. His absence is already felt, and the void left will not easily be filled. Zaidi was passionate about everything. Every decision that he made, everything that he did, was all the way. He cared about everybody, every walk down the street. Every time we ordered at a restaurant took so much longer because Zaidi wanted everyone that he met, that he spoke to feel like they mattered and that they were important, whether they were the president or a random stranger on the streets. Zaidi defied the laws of nature. Aside from his famous stories of the mikveh and the shul, which I'm sure you all know, he lived his whole life as if anything was possible. Everything was changeable. He believed every problem had a solution, no matter how impossible it may have seemed to the average person. One of his classic vorts was about Kedushat HaMakom, Kedushat HaZman. Sometimes it was as if he was able to manipulate time and space. We hope and pray that we will be able to instill the values Zaidi instilled in us so strongly to the generations to come.
Thank you, Rafi. For close to 16 years, as an adult, I had the privilege of sitting next to my father, sitting in my father's office, taking my father's jobs. We even have the same name. And during that period of time, I had the opportunity of fulfilling the mitzvah of Kibbud Avayim. But over these past 7-8 months, that mitzvah was transferred here to the land of Israel in a much deeper and more profound way than anything that I had to experience. And first and foremost, I would like to thank my sister and my brother-in-law and their family for the supreme dedication under very trying circumstances for both of my parents. And I know this was an everlasting final gift. And on behalf of my family, we would like to ask my father, Mechila, if there were any decisions that were made which could have been better, or treatment to him that could have been kinder, or more effort to take to be with him. We would like to thank my father's caregivers, Kathy and Zenny, for their inspirational kindness to both my parents, to Sherry, Dr. Rockburn, Dr. Wiesel, Andrew Nathanson for her help in the most timely of fashion yesterday evening. And to, of course, our dear friend, Dr. Shelley Sternberg, for her guidance through everything that we endured. Avi Rechav Yisrael. My father, chariot of Israel. These were the words of Elisha as he watched his metaphoric father ascend to heaven. This morning, I witnessed my actual father ascend to heaven. Avi Rechav Yisrael. My father, the chariot of Israel. The Targum explains that a chariot is a symbol of strength and fortitude. All that knew my father understood he was a pillar of strength, he was a pillar of fortitude, he was resilient, he had tenacity. He was a rock to so many. But the question begs itself, why is a chariot the symbol of power? Why not Sur Yisrael, Rock of Israel? Why not a Migdal, a tower, a Mitzar, a stronghold? And when you think about it, there's a fundamental difference between those and a chariot. A tower and a stronghold may be formidable, but they're stationary and they're motionless. They provide strength only when you enter into their walls. A rechav ufarashav, a chariot with its warrior, marches forward into the battlefield. A chariot warrior stands by your side. A chariot warrior confronts the challenges head off in life. A chariot warrior is near. It's not stationary. It's not motionless. A chariot warrior, a Rechav Yisrael, is a Rodev Shalom. This term, Rodev Shalom, seems to be contradictory in its meaning. A Rodev is a pursuer. It's a commando. Why not an Ish Shalom? Because a Rodev needs to be a pursuer. To win the peace, it's not to be peaceful. We need to parachute into enemy territory. For those that know my father, you know, he was a chariot warrior that parachuted in wherever there was need. When relationships were disintegrating, if it was a marriage, if it was a family, if it was a business, if it was a community, if it was the psyche of a mind, my father wouldn't sleep until he solved the issue. And no issue was too big or too small. And frankly, it didn't matter whether he knew the people or didn't know the people. Where people were in pain, he would inject himself. Where everyone else would simply run away. He was not intimidated. And he had the wisdom and the positivity to overcome the obstacles. He would lift you up. He would pull you into his chariots, and he would navigate the path to Shalom. I was speaking to my son this afternoon who could not be here. And he said, my Zaidi didn't leave behind memories. My Zaidi left behind impact. Today, my texts were flooding with these impacts. Texts such as, I owe my life to him. I owe my marriage to him. I owe my family to him. I owe my business to him. He believed in me when no one else believed in me. He was my father figure. Avi Rechav Yisrael. My father, the chariot of Israel. When Hershel Schachter Shlita once mentioned to me, your father is the embodiment of the statement of Hillel, Imani Kana Kolka. If I am here, all is here. What is the meaning of that statement? Hillel's comment wasn't egotism. It was a statement of a person that takes ownership and responsibility in this world. It's a statement of a person that doesn't wait for others. It's a statement of the person that doesn't sit idly by and wait for problems to solve themselves. Imani kan hakol kan is a statement that Hashem endowed me with the innate power to heal this world, and I refuse to abdicate my responsibility. Hillel had that attitude, and so did my father. My father was a Rechav Yisrael not only to individuals. He made a macro significance to the Jewish people. He built the most magnificent Orthodox shul in a time and a place where these things weren't heard of. He built a vibrant Jewish day school during a time where the Jewish world saw it as being ghettoizing. He built a mikveh, he built a yeshiva. He founded an organization called YUSY, which was the precursor to NCSY. He inspired a young Israeli graduate student in Hamilton to rekindle his faith. He went on to establish an organization which is called Arachim, which became the precursor to Aisha Torah's Discovery Seminars. He was instrumental in the establishment of the Bible Lands Museum because he saw it as a gateway in his vision to inspire the Christian world to see the importance of the lands and to understand Hashem's covenant to the Jewish people. Of all the stories, and there are countless epic stories of my father, there is one story that left the deepest impact upon me. During the heyday of YUSY, my father rented a hotel in a town not far from Hamilton to host a retreat for 150 teenagers. When he arrived, he asked a local participant if there was a shul. And he turned to my father and said, "Rabbi, there isn't a shul, the last one just closed." My father said, "What happened?" He said, "It amalgamated into the conservative congregation. And they had an old Litvish Rav, they made him the Rabbi Emeritus." So my father said, "Do me a favor, call this Rabbi Emeritus, tell him he's got to come to the hotel." And the Rabbi Emeritus arrived. And my father turned to this old Lithuanian rabbi and said, "Tell me something. Do you have 2 balabatim?" Because I got 2 balabatim. He goes, "Bring me those 2 balabatim to this hotel." So that same day, the 2 balabatim came to the hotel. And my father sat them down and said, "Listen to me. You can do whatever you want to do. But ethically, you can't close down the only Orthodox synagogue. We're not leaving this table until we find an answer." And they looked at each other, and they looked at my father. It was a young man. And the first one said, "All right, I got a piece of land." And the other one said, "In the $6, Rabbi." And with that, most people have a hard time just going to minyan in the afternoon. A hero among us would arrange a minyan in the afternoon. A legend builds a shul in the afternoon. Who even thinks like that? Who has the audacity to say to himself, "Before I leave today, if the city doesn't have a shul, let me build a shul"? You know who? 2 people. One is named Hillel, and the other one is named my father. I was privileged to be at a meeting with Rabbi Dean Steinsaltz and my father. And Rabbi Dean Steinsaltz peppered my father with many questions, asked him many stories. My father was very happy to oblige. And he sat there, and he looked back in his chair, and he said, "Rabbi Green, in our history, people have the appellation Balanes. Rameir Balanes is just the most famous. Why would they create Balanes, the master of miracles, as being part of a person's name? So that to find the legacy of who Rameir was. Rameir had so many attributes. He was the prime Tana of the Mishnah. Why would you call him Balanes?" And he said, "You know why? Balanes wasn't a badge of honor. what a balanes means. That since Hashem shines down at you and makes miracles through you, you have a responsibility to rise at that moment. You have the responsibility to channel those efforts. And you, Rabbi Green, are a balanes. And Hashem smiles down upon you, and that means you just can't stop. But I learned from my father that this concept of a balanes isn't just a chen that a Kadosh Baruch Hu finds for a particular person. There's a concept my father said that ein somchem alanes. You can't rely upon miracles. You need to do hishtadlut. You need to put in all of your efforts. But, and this is a big but, which was the credo of his life, after you do everything humanly possible to deliver that result, then somchem alanes. You can rely upon miracles, because you have the right to turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, now it's your turn. And this is the formula becoming a balanes. You need to be a chariot warrior. You need to be a Rechav Yisrael. You need to be able to say, Imani kan hakol kan. And you have to have a steadfast emunah and bitachon, which really defines who my father was. Now my father did experience much bracha in his life. And he used to say, Kantamti mikol chasadim, that I am unworthy of all these blessings, and as you heard my nephew say, unearned blessings. But this wasn't an abstract thought. He brought it into his business. And there were times that he had partners, and it was to his detriment. And he could have squeezed out the partners. And he could have made a lot of money. But that's not what life is about. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give you bracha, you do the right thing. And my father did the right thing for people. And he helped people. My father was a man of vision. He was inspired by his father. He saw the Yad Hashem, the hand of God in history. He saw the Yad Hashem in the establishment of the state of Israel. On 2 occasions, as we heard alluded to, that he embarked on major projects with the intention of establishing communities in Israel. One in Chof Hayam, called Kiryat Canada, one in French Hill. He had deeds to these lands. When I met Rabbi Riskin for the first time, and I introduced myself decades ago, and I said, I'm the son of Rabbi Green from Hamilton. Perched on a hilltop in Efrat, he said, look around at all these houses on these hilltops. This was your father's dream. He called me into his office, he showed me the blueprints, he showed me the map, and he sold me on a dream. This was his dream. I was able to culminate his dream. He inspired me to build Efrat. The Yad Hashem may have kept my father in Hamilton, but his visions came to fruition. As we heard, my father met with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, told him to stay in Hamilton. He told him the captain is the last to go down in the ship. He said, when Mashiach comes, we'll walk hand in hand to greet him. But the aftermath of that story is even more remarkable. That he made a statement, something which is unlike any spot across the globe. There'll be no Chabad Shlichus in Hamilton unless it supports Rabbi Green. And this I didn't only hear from my father. I heard it from people of Chabad as well. The Rebbe, I think, understood. This was a Shlichus to help a Rechav Yisrael, a chariot warrior of Israel. The Gedolim saw my father, and they saw something unique within him. Whether it was for Soloveitchik, whether it was for David Lifshitz, whether it was for Mendel Azaks, Rab Paleoff, they saw something special. He had that strength, he had that emunah, he had the resilience, he had that charisma, he had that wisdom, he had a commanding presence. I've met people that have been exposed to my father in various settings, around various boardroom tables, with very illustrious and distinguished lawyers and accountants and CEOs and academics. And I've heard from so many, this man was the most brilliant man that I have met. And his brilliance was the ability to distill the grain from the chaff, to discern the melody from the cacophony of noise. He understood real truth. Many great men champion the world but overlook their family. Today I say, Avi Rechav Yisrael. He was my father. He was my father of my siblings. He always placed family first, and he gave us reserved prime seats in his chariot. He was the consummate husband to my mother. Whenever he spoke at any simcha, it wouldn't be a speech about any other person in our family except my mother. And then in the end, if you're lucky, he gets the other people. He never left her side. He always placed her first. My mother told me today, he took care of me since I've been a teenager. And together they sang the song of life. As a father, there was no expiration date on fatherhood. He was there for us at every turn, at every waking moment. We all owe everything to him. He was the consummate Zaidi, as you heard, having a unique relationship with each and every one. I stood by my father's side this morning, and I watched his fiery chariot ascend to the heavens. Avi Rechav Yisrael. We recited by his side Hashem Hu Elokim 7 times, which symbolizes the bridge between heaven and earth. As we concluded this final Hashem Hu Elokim, he took his last breath. Avi Rechav Yisrael, you taught us how to bridge heaven and earth. May you continue to shine down from us from above. Tehim Yishvat Tzad Tzirut Yisrael.
לפני שאנחנו מתחילים, הציבור המלווים של משפחת כהן עולים עכשיו במדרגות שצמודות לבית ההספד. עקביה בן מעללל אומר, הסתכל בשלושה דברים, ואין אתה בא לידי עבירה. דע מאין באת, ולאן אתה הולך, ולפני מי אתה תיתן לי בחשבון. אליי באת, ולאן אתה הולך, במקומך ממוות הולך, ולפני מי אתה תיתן לי בחשבון. לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא גדולה את המרמה ועלייה שמלך בכוחו לעבוד אחרי בני אדם לתת לאיש כדרכיו וכפרי מעלליו ולהגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולעולה תעבוד ולנתן אדוני לקהל ישב אדוני מבורך והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית וירבה להשיב אפו ולא יאיר כל חמתו קדיש.
תשוחסה ולחם עשה, תאמירם ביומה אמרו אמן. ויהי שלמה רבם נשמעיה, וחיים טובים עמנו ויעצור ישראל אמרו אמן. עושה שלום במלוא הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ויעקור ישראל אמרו אמן.
קהל נכבד מסע לוויה יוצא לגוש כ"ג. הציבור יכול לעלות פה במדרגות שצמודות לבית ההספד ב5 דקות הליכה. מי שקשה לו שייסע אחרינו עם רכב. ידידים וקרובים מתכבדים בנסיעת המיטה, הבנים יבואו לפני המיטה. Thank you.